Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. My name is Todd Menard, and we're going over the White Mountain and surrounding area real estate market statistics for the week ending October 6th and the month end September 2025. Let's get right into our numbers. This past week, we had 120 days closed on market, a month's supply of 11.13. Absorption rate was at 8.99%. Average list price this past week, 551,579. Average sale price this past week, 540,250. And our list price to sale price retention at 97.95. Looking at active inventory, down 3% to 1,035 available properties. Pending is sitting at 37 and closed units month to date at 18. Taking a look at new listings, we took 40 new listings this past week. That's down almost 10%. Days on market for active inventory is at 122.1 and closed at 120. Looking at active inventory in the lower left-hand side, we have the upper portion, which is the current active inventory by price ranges, and at the bottom portion, which is the closed transactions by price range for the month of September. So you can come into each individual price range, and you can see how many units were closed in that price range, the average days on market in that price range, the percentage of total closed inventory, and again, any change month over month. Taking a look at our spreadsheet where we get everybody to be the expert. How? Well, you have week over week, month over month, and year over year all on one spreadsheet. This past week, as I mentioned, we did took 40 new listings. That's in comparison to 44 the week before. However, a year ago, we took 53 during the same time frame. Nothing to really worry about, just that it was significantly more last year, this same period. Of the 1,035 available properties on the market, one is in the coming soon category, 87 condo townhouses, 5 factory built, 199 manufactured homes, 1 modular, 64 park RV, 1 plex, 2 ranch and farms, 674 site-built properties, and of course, 46 new home construction. That's 1,028 non-distressed properties. We also have 2 in the short sale category and 5 in the REO category. Taking a look at pending, we're sitting at 37 this particular week. We're at 32 the week before, averaged about 51 last year. That could be an indicator, but we'll have to see what the next week's indicates. Has there been a significant slowdown this time of year versus last year, this same week? Or was it maybe an anomaly, maybe caused by the hurricanes, the storms coming in, tropical storms, things of that nature, bringing inclement weather? Looking at closed, there was 18 for the month of October. A year ago, we were at 27 by this time in October. But again, it doesn't necessarily mean anything. It's way too early in the month to really try to say whether we're up or down, just that it didn't start off quite as brisk. That could also mean that there were a number of properties actually in September of last year that got pushed over and didn't close until the first week of August. That sometimes happens as well. For close, when we get into that final day of closing, sometimes those property gets delayed for lots of reasons. Could be lack of documents put in. It could be availability of the buyer or seller. It could even be obviously conditions as far as the property is concerned that causing a delay. But again, let's not worry about that. 11.13 months supply. And again, remember what it's taking is it's taking the number of closings last week, dividing into the available property. So this particular portion of this market segment here under the statistics is just week over week analysis. Taking a look at the median sale price was at 385 versus 400 the week before. And taking a look at inventory, yes, there was a significant slow in the sold properties. In other words, the properties that did sell this past week, closed this past week, had a much higher days on market than we have been seeing. Remember, we've been seeing pretty much a consistent 24 days on market, which meant a lot of the properties that were going under contract and ultimately closing were properties that were most recently put on the market. But that isn't the case right now, which means that some of the properties that actually closed this past week had been on the market for quite some time. Looking at the list price to sale price retention, we were at 95.63 last week. We were at 97.95 currently. That means that the seller is retaining 2% versus basically giving away 4%, or not retaining the 2%, but only giving away 2% versus 4% the week before. So that's a good sign. The sellers retained 97.95% of their list price based on the closings that took place. So taking a look at the uh, month-over-month analysis for the month of September versus September last year versus August last month. We can see here that we took 208 listings this past month, where we took 203 last year. So that's up a little. So you could say it's consistent with what took place last year. Nothing really big changed. We look at inventory. Inventory went from 890 available properties last year this time to 1,126 properties. So obviously either there was a slowdown in sales, or there was a just more properties put on the market. So what was it? Well, we closed 182 properties, and there's 182 pending, on average for the month of September versus 168. So again, we were the average pending number was about 20 units higher than it was the year before. Taking a look at close, we closed 182 properties in the month of September 2025 versus 190 September 2024. So about 12, 8 units difference between the 2 months year over year. We ended the month with a 6.19% month supply versus a 4.68 month supply a year ago. So the market was 2 months slower, a month and a half slower right now than it was a year ago. Taking a look at the median price of 367 for the properties that closed last month versus 426.5. So of the properties that closed last year, they were more expensive properties. A higher number of more expensive properties closed, which brought that median price up to 426, where this year it's at 367. Now, I would be concerned about that, except let's look at the month before. We were 19,000 higher than we were last year. And we look at the month before that, and we were about the same. So the month of August and the month of September kind of flopped, but went back to the average or median numbers. So that's a good sign. It means we're still in that stable market. Taking a look at days on market, as we had mentioned, we were at about 99 days on market for closed properties at the end of last month versus 120 the year before. And you can kind of see the transitions take place month over month again. Nothing out of the ordinary, or nothing that stands out that says, oh, we're having a trend going one way or the other. The sellers retained 92.3% of their list price at the time that they accepted their offer versus 93.3. Well, let's see, last month before it was 92.3, so it remained the same. The week and the year before that, 93.4. So as what you're seeing is the sellers are having to give up in August and September a little more discount off the list price, because back over here in the month of July, we were retaining as much as 96%, which means the average negotiation was about 3.8%. And now down here, the average negotiation is basically 6.7%. So that was the difference between the month of September and the summer months of July. So I wanted to leave you again with what I do each month, which is try to provide you with either what's going on in the quarter or what's going on year to date. So last month we did the quarter. Let's look at year to date now that we finished the month of September. So we're actually October, we're in the fourth quarter of the year, believe it or not, 60 days away from the holidays. But we sit here and we look at 2024 versus 2025 month to date or year to date, and you'll see last year we closed 1,334 units by this particular time, being September 31st. This year we've only closed 1,275, so we're down 4.42%. We can see that the volume, which is if you take all those homes and you multiply them times the price of sale price, each home individually, multiply it times the number sold, We did $580 million. We're at year to date right now. We were at 586 million the year before, so we're down only about 1%. So we see 5% here, 1% down here. The properties that are selling are more expensive. That's how that works. Not that the pricing has gone up per se. Median stayed almost identical, so we're actually $900 less expensive in the median category. And again, remember, this is the entire amount of properties that sold year to date 2025 versus the entire amount of properties that sold in 2024 using the same year to date calculation. Average sale price this year is $455,454 versus $439,741. There's your difference in your volume right there. Average days on market right now for the year was 108 versus 103 the year before. So that's close enough to say it's a very similar market. The sellers retaining on average 96.64% throughout the year of 2025 versus 97.65, which means the sellers are really giving up about the same amount of money as they were last year. We're not in a market that is causing buyers to necessarily have to pay more. We're not going over 100%, so we're not in a multiple offer scenario where buyers or sellers in this particular case would be driving the market in either direction. We're still in that neutral market, so we're not in a seller's market. We're not in a buyer's market. We're in that neutral market. And that's, you can see inventory is up just a little bit, about 6% more than we had last year so far, total homes available. So that's how you can look at these numbers and say, hey, what's happening? How does last year compare to this year, or this year compare to last year? You can also see the totals down here. So, at the end of this year, we'll add the 2025 line, and then we'll be comparing 2025 month to date or year to date with 2026 year to date and see what's going on. But the numbers don't lie. You can look at the numbers. We're all the way back to 2016 here, but the last 5 years are displayed right here for your viewing pleasure. Okay, those are the numbers for the month of September. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to give me a call. Always here to help out. See you next week when we deliver the next set of numbers for the week over week. Have a good day.